All right, in this tutorial, we're going to make an optical illusion pattern in Illustrator. It's really simple to make, just a few simple tools, polygon tool, rotate and reflect transformations, pathfinder, and then the swatches panel to make the pattern. And it looks like this, and you can't tell whether the cubes are going up or down. It's really cool, and let's get started. Here we go. All right, so here we are in Illustrator. I've started a new document. It doesn't really matter what size the page is. I'm using a 1920 by 1080 layout. You can use this 8.5 by 11 or really whatever size, it doesn't matter. For this one, we will not be using the grid or snap to grid. It's just something that's a little bit more free-form the way that it gets constructed. The first thing to do is that we want to get to the polygon tool. And that's typically associated with the rectangle tool on your toolbar. And you'll see polygon. It does not have a keyboard shortcut. For us, what we want to do is take this tool and just click on the screen. And this will give us an opportunity to put in a radius and to put in how many sides that we want. And we're going to start this off with a triangle. So what I recommend is 20 points and the sides of 3. It doesn't really matter the size, but 3 is really the most important. So let's go ahead and click on OK. And now we can just zoom in on this. So what we're going to do with this triangle is we're actually going to turn it into a 4-sided shape by reflecting it. But first, what we want to do is we want to rotate this 90 degrees. So with the triangle selected, and I didn't say this before, but you can hit D on your keyboard to get to the default colors of a white fill and a black stroke. And what I'm going to do is double click my rotate tool. And what I want to do here is I want to rotate my triangle 90 degrees. I have preview turned on so you can see what happened when I did that. Now I have this part of the triangle is perfectly vertical. That's really where we want to begin. So once you do that, go ahead and click on OK. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to reflect this. So we have a point pointing to the right, but also we want to maintain the original here. For that, we're going to use the reflect transformation. So associated with the rotate tool typically is the reflect tool. Keyboard shortcut is O if you don't see it. And what I want to do is I want to use this vertical line as the plane of reflection. And so if I reflected it right now, it would reflect across a plane that's at this anchor point. Let me just zoom in a little bit more so you can see that. And so what I want to do is I want to change that plane of reflection to this bottom corner or this anchor point down here in the bottom of the triangle. To do that, I'm going to hold my Alt key down, or if you're on a Mac, you can hold Option down, and I'm going to click on this point with my mouse button or my trackpad button, and now I have the reflect transformation pops up. I've let go of the Alt key or Option key and the mouse button. I want to reflect this vertically, and what I want to do most importantly is I want to make a copy. So go ahead and click on Copy, and now you have the two triangles. So now what we want to do is we want to unite these together. And make one united shape out of these. What we need is our Pathfinder tool. You can go to the window menu and click on Pathfinder. And we're going to use the Unite transformation, or the Unite shape mode that's in the first item in the top row. I'm going to select both triangles, and then I'm going to click on Unite. So now I have this 4-sided shape that was started off life as 2 triangles. All right. Next thing we need to do is we need to make the 2 other sides of this cube that's going to form the foundation of our pattern. So with your black arrow, select your quadrilateral shape here. We're going to go back to the rotate transformation. We want this to rotate around this bottom point, so you're going to hold your Alt or Option key down and click on this point with your mouse button or your trackpad button, and then you're going to let go. Now the angle that we want this to rotate is not 90 degrees anymore. We want this to be 120 degrees. Remember, this is essentially going around a circle. So we need this to go, we need 3 copies, divide 360 by 3, you get 120. And again, we're going to click on copy. Now we can repeat this transformation without having to go through the rotate transformation box by going to the object menu, transform, transform again, or Command or Control D. And now you have a cube. All right, so let's add some color to this. We're going to change the color of each face. I'm just using my swatch panel here, and I'm just going to use red for this one, orange for this one, and this kind of yellowy orange for this one. Now what I also want to do is I don't want to have any outlines on here. I want this to be just solid shapes without an outline, so I'm going to select all 3 of my objects here. I'm going to go over to my toolbar and click on the stroke panel, and I want to change the stroke to none. Now I can do that by clicking on this red diagonal line. I can also type the slash key on my keyboard. Either way, that's going to take away the stroke and only leave me with fill information. To make this really easy, we're going to select all these shapes and group them together, so this way we can copy the cube a couple of times to make the foundation for our pattern. So I'm going to select all 3. I'm going to go to the Object menu and click on Group. Command or Control G will do the same thing. So now when I select this, all 3 will move together. All right, now what we want to do in order to make our pattern is we need to arrange these in a way that we can then form a pattern from them. So we're going to copy this 3 times. Now for this, it's really important that we have our bounding box turned off. Now I had mine turned off already. I'm going to show you what the bounding box looks like first. This allows you to do some on-screen transformations when you have the bounding box turned on. But it can get in the way when we're trying to do some copying. So what I want to do is go to the View menu and hide the bounding box. All right, so now there's no transformation handles that are up there. The next thing that I want to check is make sure that Snap to Point is turned on. What that's going to allow me to do is when I copy this, I can copy from one of these points and move it to another point to ensure that we're perfectly aligned. I'm going to show you what it looks like when we're not perfectly aligned in a moment. So what we're going to do, so we turn the bounding box off, we have Snap to Point turned on, there's a little check mark there, and we're going to select this with the black arrow. You're going to hold your Alt or Option key down, and you're going to click and drag from this bottom left corner, and we're going to snap it into the uppermost corner of, let's say, this red shape. Right now, I'm going to repeat this again, and I want you to take a look at what happens with the cursor. Right now it's black and white, but as it gets close to this point, it now becomes white and white. And what that's telling you is that you're snapping right into that endpoint, which is exactly what we want to do. Now I'm going to take this cube, I'm going to grab it from this corner, this upper corner of this orange shape, and I'm going to drag it to this intersection here. And again, you can see how the cursor changes from black to white. I'm going to make one more copy, and that's going to land right here. So I'm going to start at the upper point of this red shape, and I'm going to drag it down here. And intentionally, I'm going to make sure that it's off, right? So here I think I got it in the right place, but you can see there's a little white gap there. I'm going to just zoom in. This is just a demonstration of kind of a couple of tools that we can work with. So you can just take this, obviously, and move it here, and you can see again that that cursor is changing from black to white, and that's indicating to you that it's snapping into that point. All right, so that's really important that we get these aligned correctly, otherwise your pattern is not going to work. All right, now to make a pattern, what we're going to do is we need to create a rectangle that encompasses the area that's going to get repeated. And that area goes from this point to this point to this point and then to this point. And we're going to do that with a rectangle. So I'm going to get to my rectangle tool, and I'm going to start here at this upper point. You can see also that Illustrator is giving me a little hint. As I hover over there, it says anchor, meaning that it's getting really close to the anchor point. So I'm going to click on that point, and I'm going to drag down to this point. So the bottom, let's call it the top shape of this red, of this cube at the bottom. All right, so here we are, and now I have this rectangle that's going to define the area of the pattern. Now, to make this work as a clipping mask for the pattern, what I want to do is I want to change the fill color to none. All right, the stroke should also be none. All right, so this needs to be in what's referred to as an unpainted shape. And then this whole rectangle needs to be sent to the back. So I'm going to go to the Object menu, Arrange, and send it to the back. All right, so now if I highlight this, you're going to see that there's that frame, the clipping frame is there, but it's invisible and it's hidden in the back. Now I just want to show you one more thing that's going to help you visualize kind of what's going on, especially if things are hidden. If you go to the View menu and you click on Outline, now you essentially see just a wireframe of what you've drawn. So all the shapes, but without any fill or any style applied to them. Here you can go in and check and make sure that you're aligned with these corners, which I'm doing here. All right, it's aligned, it's aligned, it's aligned. And if it's not aligned, you can certainly work on this with any of your editing tools to make sure that that's aligned. Or if you need to redo it, obviously you can go ahead and redo it. To get out of this outline or wireframe mode, I'm going to go to the View menu and GPU Preview, and that takes me back to typical editing. All right, now to make my pattern, what I want to do is open up my swatches panel. If I don't have it open, Window and then Swatches. I'm expanding it a little bit just so I have a little bit more room to operate in here. And I'm going to take my black arrow and select the 4 cubes and my clipping frame, and I'm going to drag that into the swatches panel. And it's going to give me a little preview of what that tile is going to look like. Now let's zoom out a little bit, make myself a nice big area to show my pattern, see if it works. So I've created a large rectangle. I made sure that the fill is the thing that's in the forefront, and I'm going to fill it with my pattern. All right, so there you go. Hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Peace.